I was recommended by a doctor to drink at least 64 ounces of water per day, and I went, cool, clean 100 it is.
I'm not the best person to challenge this science because one, I have no idea what I'm talking about. Two, this is apparently a vague memory from some of the most useless opinion sites or opinion newspapers in the world. And three, I'm not allowed to drink 64 ounces of water a day because that's how I retain water. Hello and welcome to Stars Every Week Forever, the podcast in which we watch one Star Wars movie every week forever. This week,
Did you almost forget what we do here, Jay?
Empire Strikes Back. No, I did the thing where I immediately switched topics and then I forgot how the intro works.
It's my favorite movie.
I love you, Jay.
Is anyone else deeply concerned about tonight's episode?
Can't be worse than last week's episode.
Empire, historically, we lose our shit. And
yes,
the way this rotation has already gone, I have concerns.
Well, the wheels really fell off the wagon last week, I would say. I was concerned about the week before, but I shouldn't have been. The wheels fell off the wagon last
Look,
week.
my wagon's been sliding downhill without wheels for like 5 rotations now. I don't know what to tell you. The wagon's on fire.
That's just a description of the podcast. Ben, how was your watch?
You need to stop asking me that.
Well, it's part of the podcast. How was the watch?
Well, it's bullshit,
We
and I
can't be
hate
changing
it.
the format
I
to
hate
spin
everything.
rotations in.
Existence is pain, and I'm now nostalgic for the time where, like, I looked forward to Star Wars, where Star Wars was a thing I watched, like, maybe a couple times a year, and now it's 6 feet under, and I no longer even mourn its passing.
That is the agreement we knew this was gonna happen.
I knew it was gonna happen. I didn't know it was gonna feel like this.
I can say with absolute certainty that I'm not nostalgic for it that time. But I am miserable. Chris, how was your watch?
I'm also miserable.
Woo! The gang's all here!
Star Wars is a minor factor in that, though, so I mean, the watch was fine.
How was your watch, Jay?
I think miserable summed it up fine.
Jesus Christ. We're all jolly today.
Yeah, we
That's
walked
great.
in here today with a very specific mood.
Usually it's only like one or two of us who are outright miserable.
Here's the thing. Part of the contentifying of this show is the misery. We can't always avoid it, is the thing.
I miss the misery.
You don't miss the misery, you're in the misery. Whoa, 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 whoa. I don't... So... Peek behind the scenes, we're still a little bit behind on recordings. Hopefully this is the last week that that's the case. And I personally think part of the reason why it has been such a pain in the ass to talk about these shows the last couple episodes has been being behind the way we have been. Because we're now relying on faulty memory from somewhere around a week ago every time we sit down to talk.
Well, here's the thing. This might be an interesting time to talk about this as we're pointing this out. Do we feel at this point as though the time we took off over the holidays was helpful or a mistake?
Oh, we've brought this up the last 2 episodes, and it was a mistake. It was 1,000% a mistake because we lost our groove. We lost our groove, we got 2 great episodes, and then everything went to shit.
I'd still do it again in a heartbeat.
Yeah, but that's not because it would be good for the podcast. It's because we're fucking tired of this shit.
Look, I think we as a show need to accept that we've passed the point of anything being helpful to this show.
Oh, the process? You're right.
I don't think this show and helpful belong in the same sentence to start with.
What's best case scenario for this show at this point? Like, honestly, what is best case scenario? I would love for the viewers to answer that. We occasionally ask for viewer feedback. in the comments of whatever you're watching, or in our Discord. What is your version of a perfect episode of this show? What is,
Oh my god.
like, at our best? We're sitting here like, this is horrible. What are we at our best? What is this show?
Judging by what we at least like self-identify as our best episodes, totally unhinged.
Yes.
Every time we get off of a recording and we're like, oh, that was rough, it ends up being some of our.
Oh, that's
some of our
distinctly
personal
not true.
favorites.
See, that's rose-colored glasses without the benefit of editing. There are times where we get off a call and say that was rough. But it's usually because we do something such as, say, fuck, marry, kill lists. There are definitely episodes like last week where it's rough, and it's mostly because we're talking about our history with the law, which is worse.
Hey, look, that's content, baby. I don't know what to tell you anymore.
The week before was way better content. So here's the general problem we have hit as a podcast. This is the prime problem. We have wanted to avoid our problems since we got back. We came back on a real high because we hadn't spent much time together because of the Christmas holidays. And then once we got back, we were faced with the immediate problem we hadn't faced in a little bit, which is how much of a slog getting through these movies are. And then we weekly came into this podcast not wanting to talk about how much of a slog it is, despite that being the groundwork of the show. Part of it is just our personalities, but there's like I believe 25% of the show should be about Star Wars, and then 75% should be about whatever the fuck we feel like that week.
Lists.
That's so much Star Wars.
Whatever the fuck we want to talk about. We have not been meeting the 25% quota. At best, we've been hitting 10%. And that's largely, I believe, due to a continued effort of avoidance.
Alright, well fine, let's talk about Star Wars. Ben, I have a question for you as the lore master here.
You're gonna make me miserable.
We've talked about this previously on the podcast, but I think tonight's where we get to the bottom of it if we haven't already. And I don't remember if we have. We've done many rotations of this show, and I've tried to block
15.
them out like much trauma.
15.
Ben, where canonically
Yes?
is Luke Skywalker's hand?
We're about to... Okay, I just want everyone to know, I'm fully on board with this. We're about to go through... Is this just the journalistic episode where we attempt to go through the history of Star Wars to try to find an answer to a question that has no answer yet? Is that where we're at?
Yes.
Okay. All right, let's put on
Look,
our...
Jay, let me have my Vice moment, alright? We're doing a
We're
deep
about to
dive.
have... All right,
We're doing
it's
a
Dark
deep
Side
investigative
of
dive.
the Pod Race. This is our... This is when Dark Side of the Pod Race extends into Dark Side of the Star Wars.
Dark Side of the Rebellion. Where is Luke
Alright.
Skywalker's hand?
All right, let us make this effort to find this thing that doesn't have to happen.
So Ben, do you not have an answer for this off the top of your head?
Off
as the
the top
lore
of my head,
master
no.
of, the podcast?
There
Wait a
were
minute.
There were rumors last year that Disney Plus was going to do an entire show about what happened to Luke's hand.
Oh my god, Disney, take my money. Please, raise the price of Disney Plus and make that.
Wait, don't we know the answer to this already? I feel like we discovered it a couple
We
years
knew
ago.
what happened to the lightsaber, and in Legends, Palpatine had the hand.
Yeah, like I know the legends.
No, the current
Explanation.
canon. Yes, exactly. So, we found out a couple of years ago in the comics.
Oh, did we?
I thought that was old Legend. Or no, that's current canon. Yeah, you're right.
So
I thought that was Legends. For
Did we
some
talk about this on the show
So-
already?
Palpatine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Palpatine sends someone after the hand. The clone of Palpatine or whatever. In because I remembered vaguely, and then I remembered when I Googled. So he sent a mercenary after to grab, or while he was in power, to go grab the hand, and it was sitting in that same Thousand
Like a-
Snokes factory.
Yeah, Exegol.
On Exegol for a long time, and Vader, because we talked about this on the podcast. I can't believe we blanked on it.
We
We
did.
talked about this on the podcast because Chris was immediately like, so you're telling me when Vader finally redeems himself, he doesn't say to Luke, Listen, Luke, I do have some bad... Luke, I have some bad news. Luke, I have made bad decisions. Your hand is someplace. Someone is probably going to clone you. But instead he doesn't mention it.
So, have we gotten evil clone Luke in canon yet, or has that not happened yet?
I don't think we have.
I don't think so.
I'm sad that we have an answer for that now, because it would have been a way better episode if we tried...
You just got done saying how we don't talk about enough
No,
Star
I'm saying
Wars.
it would have been a better episode if we had a full episode to try to find an answer to this question, but no.
Oh, just riffing. The Secret Tales of Luke's Hand?
Is that fan fiction? That sounds like fan
It
fiction.
was an 8-page comic featured in Star Wars Tales 8.
Is this Legends or canon?
This is Legends. This is old Legends.
This is old Legends.
Was there an answer in Old Legends?
Yeah, isn't that what they made the, Didn't they have an evil Luke clone running around at one point that was made from the hand?
4-year-old Anakin Solo was having trouble sleeping. His mother lay up... This is a lot of background just to figure out what happened to this guy's goddamn limb.
Inquiring minds want to know.
Oh shit, I gotta try to find an article that made me laugh really hard the other night. Speaking of Star Wars, I had some Star Wars content.
Okay, so this whole thing is a story that Han told to Anakin Solo that after being cut off by Darth Vader, Luke's hand found itself falling to the bottom of Cloud City. However, it survived by walking on its fingertips and managed to make it to a landing platform where Lando still kept an old ship. So it's a whole story he makes up for Anakin Solo.
Here's an interesting question. People talk about it a lot with various franchises. I know the one people have been talking about the last 5 or so years has been like the Harry Potter movies will probably get remade at some point. Is Star Wars too classic of a film to ever be remade, do you think? Or is that going to happen at some point?
I think it would be a PR fucking nightmare, and they're not in favor of doing it.
With how much it's already been dragged through hell and back with every little thing George has tried to do with it, I think the fan base would be so highly resistant to any form of remake.
I think that the backlash that we've gotten to Star Wars up to this point has been from let's call it a terminally online section of the Star Wars fan base, and they are very loud and they are very real, and they are not an unsubstantial part of the audience. I think that 9 movies in trying to remake A New Hope or Phantom Menace or whatever the fuck, you would have more than those people complaining about it. In the same way that I don't think you can remake the first Here's a perfect example. Fast and Furious came out in 2000. I think there would be pitchforks if they tried to remake the first Fast and Furious movie at this point. It's way more profitable to just make sequels for that franchise than it is to remake one of the movies. And in the same way, it's more profitable to come up with a sequel than it is to try to remake a thing everyone loves. Remakes are for things that haven't been used in a very long time. Star Wars will never be not used in a long time.
I wonder if we're finally going to get a sequel to a Dune movie. That would be interesting. There's so many of those fucking books, and they keep just making Dune.
It's true.
No, but is there not a small part of you that's
No.
just so done with Star Wars at this point that kind of just wants someone, Disney, it's Disney, Disney owns it now, to just look at George Lucas and go, you can have as much money as you need, remake these movies the way you would have made these movies if you had this budget.
Because we'd have to talk about it all the fucking time forever.
Yeah.
And as much as I say we have to make content, that just sounds exhausting.
Counterpoint, Jay. It's still something else than the exact same 9 movies we've been watching.
Yeah, but then we would have to have a conversation of, okay, what do we do with this remake?
I'd rather have that argument and bitch at each other than watch one of these goddamn movies one more
Yeah.
We're
time.
stuck
But
with
like,
that
I'm
no
not
matter
even.
what happens.
I'm not even thinking about this podcast in that scenario. I'm just truly thinking of it as somebody
Oh,
who's thinking of that situation and going, what the fuck would that movie look like if George Lucas
oh,
was given like $1 billion to
Oh
just make a
god.
fucking Star
They
Wars movie?
oh! I'm highly interested in George Lucas making another Star Wars
It'd be
movie.
4 hours. Because every time, twice now, we've gotten two of these fucking stupid ass Avatar movies.
Mm.
That's my hot take for tonight, by the way. Those movies fucking suck.
I mean, I haven't seen the
Um,
second one because I didn't feel like it, but the first one
same.
I remember begrudging every minute past the first hour and a half.
I watched that first movie so many times, and when my one friend was like, "Let's go see Avatar," and I was like, "Is it just colonialism bad too?"
mhm.
And he was like, "Well,
Electric Boogaloo.
yeah, pretty much." I'm like,
If
"Okay, so it's the most overdone sci-fi trope ever."
if you're somebody who enjoys watching screensavers go on a loop on your
You can
computer,
watch Phantom
and you
Menace.
have a very high quality computer monitor, you've seen Avatar 2. That's all it is. It's screensavers. Um, but no, I mean, like every time a new Avatar movie comes out, it feels like George Lucas has to be somewhere very mad
Yeah.
that people are freaking out about this movie, and it's got such a ridiculous budget, and it's top high end CGI and special effects, and George Lucas is just somewhere in the corner very mad.
I'm interested in George Lucas making another Star Wars movie. That is the kind of fire pit that would be interesting to me, and that's the kind of content on this show that I would also be interested in talking about. Remaking a Star Wars movie sounds like not only a logistical fucking nightmare for this show, and that's the thing I would like to put forward since it was brought up. We would get to watch something other than these. We would still have to watch these fucking movies over and over again. Like, that's not going to help the situation. It's not even going to put a band aid on the situation.
Yeah, well, it'll dilute it.
Would it? Because
Diluted.
Yes.
then we would have to have a knockout drag out fight with ourselves and our audience. That's like, do we include this in it? And the answer's probably going to be no.
Well, how would we even
Exactly.
look? We wouldn't be able to
Because-
if it's a remake. If it's a straight up remake, we would have to replace if we were doing anything.
And that makes no fucking sense. What, we watch the 8 other movies and then we add the A New Hope remake into it? No.
Well, no, it would also be very funny if we just changed it, because that would just destroy a lot of the jokes and dynamic of the show. It's like, yeah, I don't know, Timothy Chalamet's okay as Luke Skywalker, I guess, It's...
That sounds like a fun episode, but it's not worth all of that.
It's 100% who it would be. It would be him or the Stranger Things kid.
Point is, it's already gonna be, and gonna be is the word I'm using, gonna be a logistical nightmare when we talk about when the next set of movies comes out. The 10, 11, and 12, which will absolutely happen.
We've already talked about that,
Yeah.
haven't we? They get at it.
Yeah.
I mean, we have to.
Right,
Yeah.
but it's already still going to be a logistical nightmare because we're going to have like a 5-year period where these movies come out, and it's going to be like, okay, when do we add them? It's going to be a conversation that we're going to have for a long period of time. The idea of there being straight up remakes of even the sequel movies or even the prequel movies, or just A New Hope.
Well,
that would be such a pain in the ass to deal with.
Well, I mean, that was my original question. It's never going to happen, right? Like, these movies are too classic at this point. Like, you can't remake these, right?
Right. I think it's more because you wouldn't make the money that would make it worth the backlash.
But I do desperately want George Lucas to make another Star Wars movie. I've talked about this on the podcast before. I so desperately want him. It's kind of weird it hasn't happened yet, right?
No.
Do you think that's a George thing?
Probably.
Because I feel like Disney is probably in his ear 24/7. Like, hey, just make one Star Wars movie. Make a prequel. Do the beginning of the Jedi. Do whatever the hell you want. Here's money.
On one hand, they've gotten the same backlash that the prequels got, that they wanted to avoid having George in charge of anyway. On the other hand, and so I feel like they probably might have reached out On the other hand, that's not how Disney does business, or at least didn't do business like that until they brought back Sam Raimi for the Doctor Strange 2. Less Strange is more everything else. Or I guess more Strange is. I haven't watched the movie. I don't give a fuck.
I liked it.
So I guess they might get a hold of him, but it's kind of like, on the other hand, George was very happy not making movies anymore. Like, it wasn't like George... I don't think George is seething because he's not making money directing anymore. I think he's quite upset because he isn't a fan of the direction, but I don't think he gives a single solitary fuck about making another one.
He still... I feel like consults is probably the wrong word, but like he visits the Mandalorian sets and shit all the time. But like he's pseudo involved.
I get the impression it's more, how do I phrase it? I get the feeling it's more the people running the shows wanting to be like, okay, I'm using your thing and I'm a fan of your thing, so why don't you come in and hang out with us, than it is George come in and let's throw some ideas off the wall.
I mean, it's... I don't know. I think everybody who's a fan of Star Wars is back and forth on how they feel about George Lucas all the time, but like...
I feel like we're back and forth about how we feel about George Lucas half the time.
I want to know what he does on a day-to-day basis.
Well,
like, what does George Lucas do?
He still makes movies, just mostly like for himself.
That's what he said in the past. He makes movies to put the vault, and that's it. That's what he does now.
I mean, are people... Who's acting in these movies?
It'd be really funny if it was
signing
movies.
NDAs?
Can we... Okay, so it's hopefully many years from now and George Lucas has passed on, and this vault full of movies is finally released to the public that he's made. How long is it in this back catalog of movies that he has before it's just George Lucas and his family being the leads in all these fake movies he made?
Well, like, that's the interesting thing.
That's
like,
the ideal planet to live on.
Yeah, I feel like there's a fairly distinct possibility that George Lucas has been getting actors to come in, sign NDAs, and then make movies to just put in a box somewhere.
See,
I mean, Disney gave him how much fucking money for Star Wars? He's got money to burn.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I suppose. But on the other side of things... Every actor that's worked with George that didn't work on a Star Wars film and have that kind of budget has bitched about working with him. Like, not in a, I hate that guy kind of way, more in a, I just feel like I didn't get to make creative decisions kind of way.
What if George Lucas got really into claymation and has been making claymation movies? He's continued the Star Wars franchise with claymation, and those are sitting in a vault. George Lucas is going to pass away, and he's made 80 Star Wars movies that are claymation.
Well, those will never get released to the public for sure. So I'm hoping he's doing some...
It's like really good claymation.
Well, I more mean they're not going to release George Lucas's now basically fan fiction Star Wars movies to the public. They're just not going to.
We're not going to get the Wallace and Gromit Star Wars spin-offs?
Alright, when you put it like that, I want that.
Disney would finally be able to fulfill their promise of continuing the Legends tag and, like, putting new Legends content out, which is a thing that they said they were going to do and have yet to fucking do.
Stop bitching about.
Because it's true.
Yeah, they just go, alright, here's some more Legends stories, you know? And it's just 40 years of George Lucas
would that make people,
claymation.
Would that make the old Legends heads more mad, though? Probably.
You know, at this point, I would take it.
Because he's not going to work in that universe. He hated the Legends. He just did it because it made some extra revenue.
He would pick and choose some stuff, I think.
I doubt it. Not in a way that would appeal to you and me. He wanted to use Darth Talon for the sequel movies that happened 10 years after the or 20 years after the last movie. That, like, he doesn't give a fuck. He'll just be like, that one's pretty and that one's cool. I'm going to rewrite their entire story.
Do you think?
This is we were complaining at the start of the episode, like we don't know where. This is a much better episode than we've done in a long time. By the way,
this might be getting
No,
cut.
it's just
How do you think Star Wars Rule 34 pisses off George or makes him very, very happy?
Oh, he's been on it. We're not cutting that, by the way.
Well, no, I don't care. I didn't know anyone else's take on. I don't know. George has some thoughts and opinions on his own work and what works and what doesn't. I feel like
if you looked at his Google search history, at least how many days are in every month? 28 days a month he has been on the Rule 34. He has been on that site. And just for educational, for law reasons, for legal reasons, just educationally, George, can we get a shirt that says George Lucas? Can we make a shirt that says George Lucas goes on the Star Wars Rule 34 tag just for educational purposes? George Lucas.
I'm pretty sure that would actually
probably
be illegal.
George Lucas goes on the Star Wars Rule 34 page purely for educational purposes.
And then the back of the shirt just says allegedly.
Allegedly.
Yeah, everything over the past 5 minutes has been allegedly.
Allegedly. These are our fun headcanons. Can we name the episode Fun Headcanons about George Lucas?
George, I know you're listening. Come on the show.
Come on the show.
No, you're listening.
I would love to do a segment where we just show George Lucas a series of Star Wars Rule 34 art.
He's seen them. As we've allegedly established. No, I don't think there will be a single I can't say it like that. Definitely can't say it like that.
We're going back to Hellcourt.
I have to just give me a second because now I have to decide if I want to say this next thing because I was about to make a
How
big
much do you want to
oopsie.
commit to the bit,
I was
Jay?
about to make a big
Well,
oopsie.
hey, just say it. We can cut it.
There will never be more content for this show than when the garage full of George Lucas movies is released to the public. You can see why I couldn't say it the way I was probably thinking of saying.
Yeah. What if George Lucas has just been ghost directing porn this whole time?
Allegedly, that actually might be the one that we have to actually cut.
I said, what if?
No, you said what if.
Say
He posed it
is,
as a
I said,
hypothetical.
what if?
It wasn't an accusation. It was a hypothetical.
Purely hypothetically, what if George Lucas is directing porn? That was... He found a new purpose for the ranch. You know, ranches don't make as much money these days as you'd think.
Yeah, the George Lucas Ranch, which Disney still works on, definitely doesn't make the money that it used to. That's a good question. Do they still work out of Skywalker Ranch?
I doubt it.
Look, I got really into Yellowstone the last couple of years, and I don't see George Lucas as the type who's actually working a functional ranch. So
well, it wasn't a ranch. All Star Wars content used to be made on the ranch.
No, I understand this, but like, he's not doing that anymore. So like,
where is Lucasfilm
what
currently?
purpose does the ranch serve?
Acquisition process, Kathleen Kennedy. Where is it located now? They moved to Wait, hold on. The Letterman.
I think a lot of it's filmed in LA because they're using that big CG dome thing.
Y'all, I think they're still squatting on George Lucas's ranch. Now that I'm looking at this.
I mean, was that part of the acquisition? Did they also purchase Skywalker Ranch?
I doubt it. It's still where he lives.
Then there's no way There's no way.
Hold on.
Every other day, it's just George Lucas stumbling into like the middle of a production, like Harrison Ford in that magic clip where he's like, "Get the fuck out of my house."
Skywalker Sound remains on the ranch. for which Lucasfilm pays a rental fee to George Lucas, who remains the property's owner. So a portion of
So they gave this motherfucker, what was it, like 2 billion or something like that for Star Wars, and then they're also
Four.
paying him rent?
It was like
Yeah, it was
4.4, I think.
It was 4, I think, yeah.
All right, but you don't get the ranch. You gotta pay me for that
$4.5
still.
billion.
Christ. Which is the thing that I saw pointed out many times a couple months ago when Twitter was sold for way more than that.
10 times that.
And it's like, fucking Star Wars, man, sold for 4.4.
George
This site has sucked since it started. You paid this much?
George Lucas made a man-made lake on his property and called it Ewok Lake.
Yeah, he's a dork. What do you want? He's a fucking nerd. What do you mean?
He's a nerd with money. What do you think he's gonna do?
I would do some ludicrous
Favorite
shit
reaction
if
to
someone
anything.
handed me that much money, too. What are you talking about? I'd build a fucking castle. Probably name it some dumb shit, too, alright? We're all nerds here. If someone handed us that much money, you're telling me you wouldn't do some crazy nerdy shit with it?
I'm just reading the Skywalker Ranch article at this point. Hold on one second. I'm putting things together right now. Hold on. So
It's crazy that he got that much money after making the prequels.
I mean, he probably made fucking 20 times that on just one of the prequel movies. So I'm doing math about where this is located, because it might be possible that they're still using the building that they did for Lucasfilm as a whole. How close is Novato to Presidia, San Francisco? This is the episode where we dox George Lucas.
I mean, isn't Skywalker Ranch like a tourist attraction? Don't they do tours and
Oh,
shit?
probably. It's considered a filmmaker's hideaway, is how it's described. Okay, so...
Well, I think if I'm not mistaken, multiple people have used it. Like, I think Kevin Smith did one of his movies, like the editing process there, if I'm not mistaken.
That was the idea, is that he wanted a non-union place where filmmakers can hide away and work on things.
Ah, it was for a capitalism. What a surprise.
There is something very funny, and I know we've pointed it out quite a bit, but I feel like it doesn't get pointed out enough generally about George Lucas, who made such an anti-fascism series, who is so fucking anti-union. He is so anti-union.
32 minutes, so they are definitely still using the old Lucasfilm building, because all it takes is a 35-minute drive over the Golden Gate Bridge to get to where so they're still squatting on land that George Lucas owns.
Well, yeah, you said they pay him rent.
Well, Skywalker Sound does on where he lives, but it seems that during the making of the prequels, he got a place just inside of San Francisco to do a lot of the heavier process, and they still use that building. So both places where Star Wars is primarily made is still owned by George Lucas.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So they're squatting on George Lucas's land. They pay rent, but
well,
yeah.
I was about to say, they're paying him rent. They're not squatting.
But you know what I mean. That's wild. Can you imagine George Lucas walking outside and just looking over and seeing massive Disney crews walking in and out of the building? Like, maybe I should put something in the coffee this morning.
I saw, I don't remember what the, I don't remember what the website is. It's basically The Onion, but they do, like, you know, entertainment, like, nerdy stuff. It's like the nerdy version of The Onion. Mm-hmm. I saw a headline the other day from them, and I had to look twice because it was so unsurprising of a headline, and I thought it was from, like, an actual site for a minute. I didn't realize it was a joke. It just said, you know, interviewer asks Harrison Ford what he thinks Han Solo's favorite color is. Harrison Ford responds, "I wish George Lucas would die." George Lucas would die. And I saw it very quickly and went, yeah, that sounds right. And then realized it was satire, and I was like, oh, okay.
Mentioned in a recent episode that Harrison Ford is probably very smart for not having a social media because he would not be doing well. Again,
Yeah.
considering we can believe that would come out of his lips. Again, very smart for not having a social media.
I could consider, like, that didn't surprise me even in the slightest, because that is a very Harrison Ford thing to say.
Does Harrison Ford have like that kind of hatred for George? I don't.
No, I think just Star Wars in
Yeah,
general.
that's fair.
So, like, I feel like if an interviewer asked him that question,
I didn't realize it was like a
that
Bret
w-
Hart Goldberg situation happening out here.
no, I mean, I think him and George are still fairly tight,
He
but
never
like,
had he never had a problem with like the Indiana
Yeah.
Jones movies or
Yeah.
anything.
like him and George are tight. I think, like, if someone had asked him that nerdy of a question of, oh, what do you think Han Solo's favorite color is, he would be like, God damn it, George. Fucking
George, I love you like a brother, but you ruined my life. Everywhere I go, I get fucking nerdy references thrown at me. I don't remember a single solitary second I was on set. I was loaded the whole time.
I did read a very funny article about the newest Indiana Jones movie from Harrison Ford, where he was talking about, like, how they used the face technology to de-age him a bit for the movie. Which, again, he's on the one Yellowstone spinoff right now, and he looks fucking great for his age.
Right.
So I don't know why they would need to do that, but he was explaining the process to him, and him immediately being like, no, don't do that to me. But and then, like, he saw it and he was like, yeah, no, it's creepy. It looks like me, but it's creepy.
Can you imagine someone approaching Harrison Ford with the idea of using a mocap suit for something? You want to put me in what? And what, I'm just gonna crawl around and growl a whole fucking lot? Who am I, Benedict Cumberbatch? What the fuck do you believe of me? By the way, Benedict Cumberbatch crawling around for Lord of the Rings
For
the
Hobbit as
is
Smaug.
one of the funniest, just no context
Jay,
clips ever.
He is so into
Jay,
it though.
it's hilarious you say that, because that's 100% a thing that's happening now, thanks to him signing on for Marvel.
Oh my god.
He's gonna be
you're
Red
right.
Hulk. They're gonna put him in the whole getup.
Please.
Harrison Ford is gonna be Red Hulk.
Yeah, he's playing Thunderbolt Ross.
That's-
And they're very
that's actually
clearly
great
Disney-
doing the Red Hulk thing.
Disney, you need to have a full behind-the-scenes documentary, and I mean full non-PR based behind-the-scenes documentary for that movie. It is required by law, allegedly. I need to see Harrison Ford work in a mocap suit. I need to see it. I don't need you to say anything over it. I don't need you to sugarcoat it and say what a good sport he was. I need to just see Harrison Ford in a mocap suit. Thank you for your time.
I mean, I just need him to grow out the appropriate mustache to play this character.
I just need him to have his fucking hoop in.
I'm very
That's all I
excited
want.
for big red CGI Harrison Ford with a mustache.
You know he's not going to get in the mocap suit, though. You know they just hired him to do the non-Red Hulk one.
Well, no, because they're gonna do what
I doubt it.
they did with Ruffalo.
I
where
doubt
It's
it.
gonna look like him.
Chris,
I
you're assuming
100%
that Mark
guarantee.
Ruffalo
I
and
guarantee.
You're assuming that Mark Ruffalo and Harrison. You're assuming that when Mark Ruffalo joined Marvel, he had the same kind of pull as Harrison Ford to say what he would or would not do.
Would bet any amount of money that we are going to get big red Harrison Ford.
No, I'm not saying.
I am so excited.
I'm not
for
saying
it.
it won't happen. I'm saying they're going to have someone else do the mocap. I guarantee
The way they do that tech, like, they've shown how they
Right.
get it to look like Ruffalo is they have him in this fucking
I
getup,
recognize that. I'm telling you, when he signed on for that contract, I guarantee he signed a clause where he doesn't have to be in the suit.
Jay, don't take away the fantasy I have of Harrison Ford in a mocap suit with a camera in front of his face and big red Hulk hands. All right, take away.
I also feel the need to point out the fact this is the corporation that made Harrison Ford do 3 more Star Wars
Right,
movies.
and he only had to show up on set once. And no, he was only in 2.
That's still
He
impressive.
was only in 2. And Ben, the boatload of money that they must have given him to
You think they won't
You're
give him
not
another
listening.
boatload?
Let me finish.
They got him to run away down a hall.
Let me finish. We're all talking about Force Awakens, which was a different thing. They must have paid him $5 million at the very minimum to come on set for 1 day of shooting for a 3-minute scene in Rise of Skywalker. You think he's getting a mocap suit for $3 million for one movie?
Because I'm pretty sure with the movie, because he's gonna be in the next Captain America movie.
Right.
He's gonna be in Thunderbolts.
Right.
He's probably gonna at least briefly be in the Secret Invasion show, I would imagine.
I have to do what television show on what? What is a streaming service?
Oh my god, I actually don't know if he's gonna be in that, but I'm
doubt
gonna
it.
try to will this into existence because Jesus, do I need Harrison Ford and Samuel L. Jackson interacting?
Oh, that'll happen for sure. I would assume in Thunderbolts, actually.
No, I mean, I just read an interview with him talking about why he decided to do the Marvel stuff, and it's like, it's weird hearing Harrison Ford excited about something, but he's like, oh, I see all these big time actors doing this, and I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do some of those, you know, like I'll get in on that. It's like, what's going on?
I have a question.
What's going on, Harrison?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Was this a sit-down video interview, and how likely is it he asked a PR person to do an interview for him? He's like, yeah, I'll do it over email. Jerry, who I hired to do my fucking PR, can you handle this? Thank you. I can't.
No, it couldn't be Jerry. Harrison Ford wouldn't talk to a stormtrooper.
Christ. Yeah, you are right. Harrison Ford strikes me as the type who's just like talking to someone like, yeah, I don't know, my agent told me to hire this guy to draft all my emails and interviews because he said I'd be canceled or something. I don't know what that means. I'm going to play it.
I know they were going to put me in one of these stupid streaming service shows, but I didn't realize they had the chance of being canceled. I can't wait. I can't fucking wait until he's on fucking Jimmy Fallon or Stephen Colbert and they're like, how excited are you to do this show? It's like, lots.
And that's always the fun thing when he does show up to these things. Like, was it Colbert where they played like the clip from the Star Wars Holiday Special?
I think it was
and
Fallon.
it's like one of my.
I think it might have been. I think it was
clips.
Kimmel. I think it was Kimmel.
It's one of my favorite goddamn clips. I've never.
Don't
seen
you remember
Harrison
that?
Ford
And you
actually
could
like get into the joke, you know?
Well, I mean, that's how that exact clip is how we ended
yeah.
One of the things that I made that was multi-hours long.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh, the Downtime Darth Papa Pop Super Hour. Because I remember exporting didn't want to happen because of that one clip, but I made it work.
Georgie boy, we miss you.
Do we?
I kind of do,
No.
I think. I don't know.
No, that's nostalgia talking.
Jay came down hard on that one.
No, I think it's, you know, we watch these movies on rotation, and I watch the prequels now, and I go, yeah, these weren't great. They were still better than the sequels.
I don't agree. I really don't. I really don't agree. I still would 1,000% watch 16 copies of Rise of Skywalker in a row over 3 Attack of the Clones.
I do not agree.
I will watch for 2 hours the pod race on loop.
Ben, we've been doing this for 14 and a half rotations, and maybe about half of that at most we've been doing video calls.
15 and a half.
14 and a half. We're on the 15th rotation.
Can we talk about pod racing for a minute?
Right. I know numbers.
I really would prefer not to. In fact, there's nothing on this planet that I've wanted to ever do less than talk about pod racing.
It's kind of weird to me that Disney hasn't jumped on pod racing more.
They will.
Like, they haven't put out a new pod racing game. you'd think they'd make like an animated series or something that revolves around like a pod racing circuit or something.
Let's be serious for a second here. They haven't known what to do with a video game franchise of Star Wars until recently for 2 decades.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like from 2005 till like 2019, they had no fucking clue what they were doing. When did the single...
Don't even say it. Don't even say it.
The
I still cry every time.
The single-player newer Star Wars game that's getting a sequel soon.
Fallen Order.
When did that come out?
I thought you were going to bring up 1313.
Within the last 5 years or so.
I didn't know 1313 was a thing until after it got canceled, so I don't really have a sadness in regards to that.
There was, and again, it was the early days. Well, I say the early days. It wasn't quite the early days, but it was like the Wild West days of the internet when I was like a very young teenager. There were rumors circulating for a while that like Rockstar was going to make a Star Wars game.
That sounds like a fucking nightmare.
It was going to be an open world Star Wars game, and teenage me was so excited. Fucking just give me GTA and Star Wars.
Hold on,
That's
pause.
all I need. That's all I want.
Pause. Hold on. I was immediately like, that would not work out. But we live in a world where a Square Enix Disney game became one of the best-selling franchises in the history of video games. Let's do it. Disney, get weird in an elevator again and let GTA make a Star Wars.
Right. I mean, if done right, Star Wars but GTA or GTA but Star Wars is, on paper, the best Star Wars.
You misunderstand me. Yes, that sounds amazing. Rockstar specifically making it is... Yeah. They're not capable of making a game that is not, in some way, R-rated. They're just not.
Yeah, sure they are.
But, like what?
Like Red Dead Redemption 2?
That's an M-rated game. Red Dead Redemption is an M-rated game. Like, they're all, in some way, deeply R-rated.
I mean, Halo is M-rated. I mean...
Yeah, but... Ben...
And I'd say Halo is, like, PG-13.
Ben, how much Red Dead have you played?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ben, it's a deeply M-rated game.
It's a deeply M-rated game.
I've played through it 3 times.
It's a deeply M-rated game, buddy. The spoilers for Red Dead Redemption 1, the ending of the game is him being shot about 82 times and blood flying everywhere and turned into Swiss cheese.
I was talking about
the second one is also worse as far as adult content is concerned. Dude, there's a whole serial killer side quest where you find severed body parts everywhere.
Yes.
Horrific language strewn throughout.
Red Dead Redemption.
You could clean up the language, and Star Wars has several genocides.
Yeah, but it's not the same thing.
Yeah, but there's not heads hanging from a rock with chains and
I mean,
intestines.
come on, guys.
I don't. This feels like the argument that Jay had with your roommate about if Coraline is a horror movie all over again.
By definition.
Oh god, don't bring that up again.
This is a deeply M-rated game that you're trying to argue is not.
Just because you don't find it particularly.
M-rated.
The point is, we're talking about the same company that made a game they made named Bully, and it was supposed to be T for teen, and it didn't pass the censors. Like, it's not. For Star Wars, it ain't gonna work. But weirder things have happened. The Square Kingdom Hearts game did happen. So again, get weird in have a weird conversation in an elevator, and maybe this would happen.
I mean, honestly, depending on how well Starfield does, just give Bethesda a Star Wars game.
No, because it wouldn't get done until 2086.
That's fine. We're probably not going to get a good Star Wars game until then anyway.
The planet isn't going to happen. Isn't going to be here in 2080. It's just no. But stop putting things in Bethesda Studios because it doesn't get done.
It gets done.
I don't need any Bethesda Studios projects ever again, except the things that they're already committed to.
Even those I could live without.
Yeah, I mean, I don't give a fuck about Fallout. I'm not going to play Starfield just because I don't have the console for it, and I really did not care enough. I don't trust them. I don't trust you, Todd Howard. I just don't.
They can't finish a game.
Bethesda obviously deserves a lot of the shit that they get, but also even the games that get the most hate, I like more than most other games. So
I don't know. I don't.
Fallout 4 was a bad Fallout game, but I still enjoy it
give a
more
fuck
than the
about
majority of other games. So
I can't say anything. I'm playing through Fallout 4
This is
right
my
now.
hot take. I don't give a fuck about the Fallout franchise. I just don't. I don't like the idea. Fallout made sense to me when it was like, I thought personally, it was the world ended in 1966 and like now everything's done. It makes no sense to me when it ended in 2066. I'm like, why is everything a 50s aesthetic then? What was the direction here?
Welcome
Because
to
the-
alternate history.
stupid.
the alternate history.
That's not how the
it's actually a
world
really
works.
cool alternate
Because the-
timeline.
Because the electrical capacitor was never
It doesn't
invented.
matter. It still wouldn't look exactly like 50s United States. Culture.
Because it's a video game,
I
Jay.
don't like it personally. I don't.
Because someone was like, hey, what if we still
Ben.
had, like, fucking
I mean, that's a
doo-wop
lot.
on
That's
the
a lot
radio?
of things.
Ben.
You say that about any cyberpunk fiction, where it's like, why does this look like the '80s? But it's not. Like
Why is
Because it was
everything
made in the
vaporwave?
80s. There's a difference. Fallout was made in the 90s to resemble the 50s.
It doesn't matter when it was made.
No, I do. Listen, you're asking about my taste in world building. I'm not critiquing the existence of it. I'm saying, why have I never gotten into it? I like cyberpunk because it is an 80s concept invented in the 80s, and it hasn't really grown past that because it's still an 80s concept invented in the 80s. The difference is, Fallout was created in the 90s in order to resemble the 50s and be the 2060s. It makes no sense to me. That's why I
Just say you're-
personally do not like it.
I know, I'm just saying, you're coming in hard and fast with this
Well,
stuff.
the point is, I don't give a fuck about Bethesda, and they should focus on the shit they're already committed to, so that they either don't come out in a year or come out once a decade.
well, I care deeply about Fallout, and I would like another Fallout game. Thank you, Todd Howard.
It ain't gonna happen until like 2030. Like, look at what
What do you mean? We got...
2030 is. Very actually like,
I don't know if the next Elder Scrolls will be out by 2030.
like it's very like generous. It's not like I don't know, for example, because it's always the one at the back of my head, BioWare, where no, they haven't made this game in 8 years because the company has been falling apart. Like, if the next Dragon Age works, it's not going to be 8 years between projects because they'll have a different idea of what they're doing. It's not the same as Bethesda, who just seems to sit with a thumb up their ass and kind of wait for the bell curve of the production to get close to being done. Like, and the worst thing, the hot take, Starfield will probably be a great game. The worst thing they could have done is make Starfield, because it's now going to prolong a creation process between 3 franchises that is already excessively long.
Hey, look, Bethesda was due to make something that they actually made from the ground up, alright? People often forget that Fallout and Elder Scrolls are not Bethesda.
Right, no, I get it. I'm just saying, like, you will not live to see at least one of these franchises' next games. It's just the reality of the situation.
I mean...
Okay, let me rephrase. I will not live to see at least one of the new ones.
I feel like even that's taking it a little far.
I
don't think we're that far. I think we're maybe 10 years away from the next Fallout game at most. Starfield's this year. Elder Scrolls will
I'm
be in
saying
the next
beyond that, obviously.
3 years. Fallout will be,
Hold
that
on,
year.
pause. Do you really think that they're going to get the next
I mean-
Elder Scrolls out within 3 years after Starfield? Have they historically proven that that is possible?
What's that, 2026?
I mean, it took them 7 years to release Fallout 4 after Fallout 3.
Right, but Fallout. What kind of condition
And
was Fallout 4
Skyrim
released
came
in?
out, and What kind of condition did Skyrim come out in? What kind of condition did Fallout 3 come
You're
out in?
learning!
It's just how
Bethesda
no,
games happen.
I've
That's a
been
feature.
saying this
It's not
for
a bug.
years, Jay.
All those bugs are features. Look, I look forward to breaking Starfield 30 minutes into it, alright? That's just the
By
tradition of
accident.
Bethesda games. Yeah.
The point I'm trying to make is the last two releases that they had, especially the last release that they had, was them trying to work quickly, and it worked distinctly bad.
Oh yeah.
You can you can put aside Fallout 4. I'll allow that argument. Fallout 76, not the case. So
No,
it
that was just
seems
an asset flip.
I mean, it was a trash concept that became a trash game. That was just them getting what they asked for.
point being, it seems like they have chosen to slow the process even more in order to assure that they don't come out quite as broken. So point is, I think it's gonna be a long, long time. I don't know what that
And
song. I don't know
who
what
knows?
those lyrics of that song is from.
It's from Rocket
Elton
Man.
John?
It is Rocket Man. Holy shit! Always comes back to Rocket Man on this show. So we had like 55 minutes of Star Wars content, and then just went off on 15 minutes of a Bethesda rant. So I'm gonna call this a win of a show.
It's true. Yeah.
We did good.
See,
I
we
agree.
just have to be bullied into it by ourselves.
We have to come out of the melancholy and get mad about something, apparently. Or just talk about George Lucas. That seems to be the cure-all for this show.
We haven't talked about George in a while.
Yeah,
We were due.
we were due. And then we even got a tiny bit of a Downtime Darth bit in there somewhere. So, yeah, I'm proud of us. Hey, look at us.
Hey,
Look at us. Look at us. This has been Star Wars every week forever. We love you.
It has, actually.
It has 1,000%
For once.
been that. We love you all. Good night. Now, don't expect this from us again for another rotation.
I ain't talking about Star Wars at all next week. Fuck you. Talk about Todd Howard some more.
Hello, all you beautiful people, and thank you very much for joining us on yet another week of Star Wars Every Week Forever. We upload every Wednesday around noon on various platforms, including YouTube, Spotify, TuneIn, and many others. If you have any friends, companions, people you would like to torture with our presence, feel free to send them our way. You know where to find us. If you would like to interact with the show and the various co-hosts, you can find us quite easily on Twitter at SWEWF. We check there very regularly, so it's easy to get a hold of us. And I hope all of you wonderful people have a glorious rest of your day. Until next we meet, may the Force be with you.